All right, hello everyone. We are live on our different social media channels, including LinkedIn, um, YouTube, and others. I'll just say others. The session today, it's going to be more of a demo, is for us to really talk about the use of AI, in particular in the content of agile coaching and for improving our agile team. So is there an opportunity today for us to use AI in a way that complements our team's performance, improves that, and could be essentially a assistant for perhaps scrum masters or agile coaches or even team members and leaders as well. So in doing so, I've been working on an experiment to create and train an AI that contains a significant amount of agile-specific knowledge. So one of the first challenges with our AI tools today is that they're generalist, right? If we use something like Bard or we use something like ChatGPT, it's going to give us everything that it knows about a particular topic, and that could be overwhelming. First, it could be too much information for what we're looking for. It's sort of like the old days of surfing the web, where it gave us the history of a word before it got to the current affair things. And the other part is that in many cases, it could go off the rails. It could start to hallucinate. It could start to get too creative about the suggestions that it makes. And the third and more dangerous one is some of it could be outright wrong because it's sourcing it from the wrong information, and that is a significant risk. So that implies that we need to make use of the technology in such a way. Well, the fourth one, by the way, also, is it doing it in an ethical way? Is it sourcing it from information that is ethically responsible? That's a big item as well. All of it leading to the part that we need to be able to train these tools, make use of the technology and the source or the base knowledge, and then train it for specialized purposes so that it speaks our language, it contains the right information, it is doing it in ethical form, and that it actually stays on point for what we need. So, with that quest in mind, I began to train a GPT. That's a custom Chat GPT instance. So it is special for purposes of agile coaching. And I began feeding it data. At first, it was a little cumbersome to feed that data. Then I found other ways to do it in a more conducive way. So I was able to increase the volume of information that I was training it with, and also the behavior and the use cases that it was actually performing. So at this point, it's probably at about 500 gigabytes of data. It's quite an amount of data that I fed it. I'm doing that from estimation. I don't know exactly how much quantitative material I fed it, but it includes books. It includes academic research, peer review material. It includes our entire blog set of articles. Some of you receive those on a periodic basis. Our whole library. It includes a self-created material in order to keep it contained within a particular area of focus and what actions it needs to, and it contains the use cases. So still work in progress. It's still a iterative process to get this going. What's the intent here? What's the objective? And I'm going to show you what we have in a minute, by the way. The objective is to experiment on whether this could serve as a agile assistant or a virtual coach of sorts. It's got its up and downs. I certainly am behind you in the concerns that this could imply, as far as some people thinking, hey, well, I can just get a tool then, and I don't need Scrum Master, so I don't need Agile coaches. That is not the intention of this in any way. It's meant to be supplemental, but it certainly has significant promise. It is already a very, very, very valuable piece of tool that I am beginning to use not only as I train it, but to check on information or to get some quick help on writing an agenda that is specific for a particular event in Scrum, but it is custom to the needs that I have. So it's serving as that pair of hands that can make us more productive, and it's already began to show the value that it can have in that regard, right? I've got, let's see, Michael, thank you for asking. Is it use cases or user stories? Good point. In the prior point that I made use cases. In other words, what are the things that I wanted to do? What are those features that I wanted to be really good at so that I can train them? It so happens that one of those use cases is, well, can you split user stories for me, right? So in that content, both terms apply, user stories and use cases, but that's just a play on words. The user story use case in this case is, hey, I have a user story, here it is. It's too big. Are you able to split this? And ideally, it would ask me a couple questions, and it would make some suggestions, and I can begin to use it as an assistant rather than starting from scratch trying to do this, or not do it at all because it's too time consuming, or not knowing that I need to do it, right? So great question on that. So let's see that for a second. I am going to come to the GPT, and this is me sharing my screen. And what I'm sharing here is that GPT. Today, this one is private because I've been training it. It hasn't been published. And you can see it's Agile Coach by Agile Genesis. The name might change. And it's essentially an expert engine. It's meant to give us some way of automating some of those tasks, some of those things that I mentioned to you. So what are the things that it can do, or that I'm training it to do? For example, can it perform an assessment? Assess my Agile team. I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to ask it to assess my team. And it's going to tell me, hey, look, in order for me to do that, I need to know what framework are you using, or are you using any framework at all? You might be using Scrum, you might be using Kanban, depending on the list of questions, and the suggestions are going to be different. So I'm going to say, in this case, Scrum to keep it simple at the team level, and is now going to go into the next part of that. And it's going to say, well, okay, you're using Scrum, I get that. So let's ask you a couple of questions for me to understand how you're doing this today. It starts out with the roles. It's saying, do you have a product owner? Here's what a product owner's responsibilities are, and do you have one? The Scrum Master, here's what their responsibilities are, and then the development team, and asking me that. That's already an improvement that we need to make, right? It should be developers, not development team. I should mention that sometimes, even with the instructions, it goes off the rails. It's one of the things we've been working on here in the Agile Genesis team to mitigate, so that it does stay within that set of instructions. Most of the time it does, but every now and then I could tell you that we have a specific set of instructions not to call it a development team, but to call it developers, because the latest Scrum is on the Scrum Guide of 2020 changed that term. So we want to be current and we want to be accurate. These are the things that using a general AI would totally get you on, right? Because it's looking at historical data and it's not being trained specifically for the items that you're in. So in this case, we just saw one, right? So now please provide your insights on the first question regarding the product owner, management of the product owner. How does the product owner manage the product backlog, and how frequently is it updated? Can you describe the POs, how the POs ensures that the backlog are well understood? I will say that in this case, we perform a product backlog refinement session regularly. The idea that we are doing that maybe every other day, right? So I'm going to say here we perform product backlog refinement. I'm going to make this daily just to make it, wow, that's amazing, right? Um, and it's telling me that that's commendable, and it's going into the next question, and on it goes. So follow-up questions on that. Um, the prioritization, what techniques are we using for prioritizing? And you can see how it's going to go through a set of questions. I'm not going to sit through those here. It's probably going to go through about 5 questions before it starts to give me some actual feedback on the state of my agile team at the role level. Then it's going to do the same for the events, and it's going to do the same for the artifacts. And then it will ask me if I want to summarize this and create a table that I can use to socialize it or use it as an action item set for opportunities to improve on, right? So that's one of the use cases that we've been using. I'm going to say, I want to stop here, and I probably didn't need to say stop. I'm going to go to a different test cases. I'm going to say that I'd like to analyze my dashboard. And this is, in this case, I mixed the words. I call it test case. I'm going to say analyze their dashboard for that particular team. And I'm just going to put that in, and it's going to say, hey, I could do that. I could analyze burn downs. I could analyze cumulative flow diagrams, and so on and so forth. So go ahead and paste that image. So I just took a sample one from one that I had, and I'm putting in a cumulative flow diagram. It doesn't have a lot of data. You can see it's a general Azure DevOps dashboard widget for cumulative flow diagrams, and it's looking at it and it's going to analyze that. It's going to say, hey, it looks like the work is distributed here between the new, the active, and the closed items. And from here, I could tell that based on the color of the width, your throughput, you might have some bottlenecks related to that, right? Your work in progress appears to be reasonable. So you're within margin. So it's looking at that image and it's taking into account the patterns for it to determine what are some potential improvements. So here are areas of concerns. It's the bottleneck, the width limits, the throughput, and the feedback by category, and the suggestions that it's making based on that single image. I could have fed it other things. I could have fed it a burn down. I could have fed it sprint data. That depends on what we collect. And then it would have analyzed the visual aspect. So you can see how you could take a screenshot of your Jira dashboard or your Azure DevOps or anything you have, put it in there and say, hey, how are we doing? Tell me what you see here. So it's an assistant to help with some of those things that many teams might be doing or intuitively or just not doing at all. So I'm going to pause here for a second in case there are any questions so far as I continue to go through this. I'm not seeing any on the main dashboard so far, but I've been known to miss some of these. So looking at the team to see if there's any. Looks like we're good so far. Carlos is telling me we are good, so we are good. Next, I am going to ask it, please split this user story for me. And in fact, I'm just going to type that in and see what it says. It should ask me to put the user story in. I was going to put it in, but curious. Yep, here it is. And I will say, as a Scrum Master, I like to have an Agile-based AI coach so that I can be more productive. That's quite a large user story. You can see how that will take multiple sprints. So I wanted to be able to split that, and here it is. It is telling me the format of the user story, and essentially giving me some different ways in how I can pivot to make that a smaller set of user stories. One of the key sets of instructions and data that we provided it was on the most effective way to split product backlog items, that it derives a value out of each item that has been split. And so that it's not just creating component stories, something that we tend to fall prey to. So we're working on getting the AI to think about horizontal slices and giving you choices. Does it split it among the data access? Does it split it among the user type? Does it split it among, you get the idea. So it also considers the acceptance criteria that you should be including into each user story as you do this. And you would be able to ask for this in a table format so that you are getting your parent user story, perhaps that becomes a feature, and then you get your supporting user stories underneath those. So you see how it's suggesting the response time, it's suggesting the acceptance criteria aspects of that user story as well. Very handy in giving us a starter for what we can massage and continue to refine, right? Another use case that we thought would be neat to experiment with, it was to look at it from a facilitator perspective. And we want to say, I want to write an agenda for my sprint review. And that was one of the categories, one of the questions that I see here, is how do we train the GPT? Well, we created data sets with the ontology, meaning the terms, and underneath each one of those terms, we put all of the proper vocabulary, and then we make sure that that vocabulary matched against the volume or the library that we had. And we began to feed it documents on that. In order to feed the documentation, we came across challenges because GPT simply can't take a infinite amount of value of data and bring that in. So we had to consolidate our library, and we got loads of data at Hydrogenesis that we accumulated over the years. So we had to put those into consolidated documents that allowed us to input that into the GPT as uploads. We are working on an API that will consume that a lot faster. But for now, we've got very, very large documents that have been aggregated so that we can, by categories of the ontology or the terms, match against the terms of the items that we are querying about. And that was one way. And then as far as the use cases, well, you saw what I just typed in. That was literally from the data model repository, where we say, when you are asked to do this, then boom, and we instructed it to have a particular type of behavior. So in this case, we asked it to, I just realized here, I'm going to make the screen a little bigger. We asked it to write an agenda for sprint review, and it's asking me these questions, right? A normal chat would not ask you these things. It would just tell you, hey, here are the general things you should be looking for, right? In this case, how long is the sprint? I'm going to say 2 weeks. I'm going to say my sprint goal is to create a AI for Scrum Masters, making it more persona based. I want to create, include a feature, in this case, or demonstrate a feature that and collect feedback on the GPT. And the stakeholders, I would like to have the head of sales, and I would like to have the CEO. I'm just throwing this in for short purposes. And the meeting length, we're going to make this a 2-hour meeting. And off it goes. Notice that I didn't have to dress it up with all of the categories of each of these. It's smart enough to know what um, pertinent questions is answering with those terms. And here now it's created a specific agenda that you can send out to your stakeholders as an invitation, but also to the team in terms of what will be covered and how we're going to run this particular sprint review, right? Notice it includes things like feedback session. A general GPT might overlook that, right? The purpose of the sprint review, as many of you know, is to collect feedback from the stakeholders. So we want to allocate ample time to that. It's not just about a demo, right? So again, another use case, and there are many more. I don't want to continue on and on and on with what you would be able to experiment with yourself. Your next question is probably going to be, well, how can I use this? So one of the things we'll do is create a public GPT for purposes of getting individuals to try it out. If you're interested in trying it out, let us know here by just sending us a yes. We'd love to see the link to that, and we'll share that with you. And that will allow you to essentially, by having ChatGPT, a paid version of ChatGPT, you'll be able to use it. You would also be able to use it through the Agile Genesis website. That is not ready yet because we wanted to curate it a little and get your feedback on what you thought before we start making that available. So you'll be able to go through the Agile Genesis website and use it for your particular team. And also, we'd love to hear from you as far as what use cases you would like to see this address, right? What are some of the things that today take a lot of your time and that you would like to have an assistant AI do for you? It would be great to hear some of your needs and how we might be able to address those. So a great one we heard the other day was it would be great to have the GPT calculate my team's capacity, so I can feed it my velocity, I can feed it the team's availability, and just do this calculation for me. And in fact, do it in an expert system where it's just asking me the questions. I don't even need to give you any formal material. It will just do it for you. And now we have that, right? I'm going to put my coaching hat on and repeat that the intention of this is not to replace the human aspect. This is an augmentation to the human factor to make those individuals more productive so that we can continue to make our teams better teams, faster teams, higher quality producing teams. And it allows us to move through that a lot faster, whether you're a Scrum Master, whether you're coach, whether you're a leader, whether you're a team member. These are valuable tools to allow you to do that which you might be doing by hand today and give you additional perspective from expert knowledge that you might not have access to. Right? So with that, that's what we wanted to cover in this session. We'd love to hear your feedback. We'd love to hear some of your suggestions around this and your level of interest. We'll be happy to forward any of the availability as we make that available on our website and also through the public membership-based GPT, Chat GPT interface, that is. Okay. All right. So with that, this has been our live session. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was valuable. And thank you very much. Have a good day.